Hello everyone, welcome back to Online Study for You. I am your friend Nikhil Prakash and today we are going to discuss some coding MCQ type of questions based on InfyTQ exam. So after proper analysis of InfyTQ sample paper, we have brought these coding MCQ questions for you. So let us start them one by one. So what we will do, let us play a game. Okay, so there are total 10 questions. Every time you have to pause the screen and try to attempt that question yourself. If you get it right, give 1 marks to yourself, and at the end you can comment that how much you have scored out of 10. So let us start. So now you can see on the screen your first question, and let me give you the options. So these are the options in front of you. So just pause the screen and try it yourself, then I will discuss it. Okay, so what it is telling that we have to identify the relation between the employee as well as office class. You can see we are having two class here, employee and as well as office. So what is the relation? So if you look closely, both are having instance variables. Here are also, and here are also instance variables are present. Again, both are having a constructor. But you can see that in the second class, that is in the office class, you have a employee type object reference. So this EMP is of which type? It is a object reference which is of employee type, means this class type. So this employee has been used as a data type here in the office, and for that you can see it is accepting values to the constructor. Now let us see the options. Now it is very much clear that it is not inheritance. Okay, why it is not inheritance? Because this office is not extending. We can nowhere see the extends keyword. For inheritance, suppose we have two classes, so class A should extend another class, so we must use extends keyword. Okay, so if this is present, then we can say that this is inheritance. Now this is also not association. Why? Because in association we can easily see mapping kind of things. Okay, mapping means one to one, one to many, and many to one, these kind of thing. So it is aggregation. Why aggregation? Because aggregation in Java tells that if one class have a entity reference of another class, then it is known as aggregation. You can see that this second class is have a entity reference of another class, means it have a entity, or we can say instance variable EMP, which is of another class, that is employee. So this is what, this is aggregation. So that's why aggregation is the correct option. Okay, last option, that's why is also wrong, that these class are not related. So once again, what is aggregation? If one class have the entity reference of another class, then it is known as aggregation. So be ready for the next question, and these are the options. Pause the screen and try it out. Okay, so hope you have done it. Now let me do it for you. So what it is saying, that in a hospital database system, an application is used to maintain information about the patients. Okay, so in the hospital, application has been created which maintains the database or record of all the patients in the hospital. Now it is saying that in the application, patient details are stored in ascending order. So ascending order related to what? It can be either the name, either the patient ID. Okay, so you can see it has been given that for patient ID, means all the patient ID has been arranged in the ascending order. So now next it is saying that which algorithm design technique would be best to search a particular patient based on the patient ID. So it is telling that we have a database, suppose we have a table. Now all the data is arranged according to the patient ID, and this patient ID is ascending order. Now we know one thing, that whenever we have a data in ascending order and we want to perform a search operation, the best algorithm is binary search. Binary search. It helps us to find the data in log of n complexity. Okay, order of log n. So binary search is based on which approach? Can you say that? So binary search is based on divide and conquer approach. Why? Because suppose this is a array. If I consider an array, so what we do in every step, we divide the array into two parts. First we find the mid, we check if it is same as the search element. If it is not, then we either move to the left of mid or to the right of mid. So every time our search space is divided into smaller parts. Lastly we get a single element at last. That's why binary search is based on divide and conquer approach, and divide and conquer is the correct answer. So it is not greedy, it is not brute force, it is not dynamic programming. Correct answer is divide and conquer. Now let us see the next question. Okay, so this is the next question and these are the options. So okay, I hope that you have done it. Now let us do it together. So you can see what we have here. We have a list. So what is this list? This is a collection framework. So we have used a list object reference, and in that we have created a array list. So what is array list? Array list is similar as a simple array in Java. Just the difference is what, when we create it, we don't have to specify the size. So now it is a array list, and this array list, you can see we have created its generic type as string. So what does this means? That we can have only string type of value. If nothing was mentioned here, it could have heterogeneous values, means of any data type. But since we have specified string, so it can accept only string type of value. So you can see we have added l.add. So through the object reference L, we can add values using the dot add function. So we have added 4 strings in this. So our array list is having online study for you. These four things as a string. Now we have created a iterator object, but you can see this iterator. What is the use of this iterator? It is used to iterate through any array list or any list. But you can see this iterator is having object as generic type. So object is also a class in Java. But remember, when we are having object as generic type, so this object cannot point or iterate through any string type of list. Okay, it can only iterate through any object type of list. So what will happen? Will it successfully able to iterate? You can see while iterator dot has next. So what it does? This has next checks if the array list have more elements, so it becomes true. So if it is true, what happens? This toString function prints the data stored in the array list. In this way, this while loop will iterate through all the elements. But the problem is where here we are having a error. The error is what? That string cannot be converted to object. So when we will extract elements, it cannot be stored in a object type of object reference. Okay. So object class is different, string class is different. So can you guess the answer now? I think you can guess. So option B is the correct answer, that incompatible types, that string cannot be converted to object. So option B is the correct answer. Now let us move to the next question. So the next question is on your screen and these are the options. So it's a very easy question. Pause the screen and try this. Okay, so I hope you have done this. So what is the concept used here? The concept of inheritance has been used here. So what is happening? You can see we are having a base class and we are having two functions. First is fun and next is run. Again, we are having a class A which is getting extended from this base class. So we know that whenever we extend a class or inherit a class from another class, so this A is getting extended from base class. So we can have all the properties present in the base class in class A. So now in class A, we can access the functions that is fun and run. But you can see we have used runtime polymorphism here. What was runtime polymorphism? Means we have overridden the functions. So yes, in Java, we can do runtime polymorphism, that we can override the functions in the child class which are present in the parent class. So you can see we are having two functions, fun and run, and we have overridden it here. Overridden means just defining it again. Okay, so now initially it was returning 10 and 30, now it is returning 20 and returning the fun function again. So what is fun? This will call internally this function again. Now you can see another, there is a class B which is getting extended from class A. So we can have a class B. Now this B will have all the properties of A as well as base class. Now this is also overriding which function? It is overriding just one fun function. So whenever we'll call the fun function through the object of B, this fun function will be called. But when we will call the run function through the object of B, you can see this run function will be called. Okay. So now let us move to the main block and try this out. What will happen? First, we are creating an object reference of the base class. So we know this concept that a parent class object reference can hold the object of the child class. So base class, so suppose this is B. And this is what? This is not an object. This is just an object reference. When the object is created, when we use the new keyword. Now you can see it is storing new A. So it means it is storing an object of the class A. Now you can see through B we are calling the run function. So control will go to the class A run function because the object is of class A. Now let us see class A. Where is class A? So you can see this is class A. Now what is the run function in the class A? You can see this is the run function. but this is calling internally the fun function. Now which fun function should be called? So the function present in class A means this fun function. So you can see it is returning 20. So this 20 will be returned where? Here in the print statement. So what will be printed? 20 will be printed on the output screen. So the correct answer is 20. All right. So I hope you are correct. So let us see the next question. So this is the next question and these are the options. Just pause the screen and read it out. It's a bit lengthy question, but it's very simple. Okay, let me remove the options from here so I can write here. Now let us read this. So you can see it is telling consider the array ARR. It is having 6 elements. Okay, so we have an array which is having six elements. So left as 0, so left index is 0 and right index is 5. So what does it mean? Suppose these are the 6 elements. So it is pointing, left is pointing to the left index and right is pointing to the right index. So you can see the index are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So left is pointing to the leftmost index and right is pointing to the rightmost index. Okay, great. The elements of the array are given to us. Okay. Now it is telling us that find the number of iterations, means how many iterations will be required to search the element 7. So for this algorithm, for which algorithm? So for this algorithm. Now if you will see more clearly, so you can understand this is what? This is a algorithm for binary search. Okay, binary search. Now what does binary search do? First we pass the array, we pass the left index and the right index and the value to be searched. You can see this value is to be searched. Now for binary search our array should be sorted. So you can see this array is sorted in nature. Now let us consider this array only. Okay, so this is our array given in the question. Now let us make the index also. So the index are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now this is the left index and this is the right index. So we have passed this in the function. Now what happens? You can see first it checks that left is less than right. So yes, 0 is less than 5. So it finds the mid value. What is mid? Left plus right by 2. So you can see here mid is what? 0 plus 5 by 2. So it is nothing but 5 by 2. So in Java we know that integer by integer is always an integer. So it will be 2 point something. So the integer value will be considered. So it is what? 2. Now you can see it checks that if array of mid is equal to search value. So which is the second index? This is the second index. Now data stored at here is equal to the search value. What is the search value? 7 we have to search. So no, 9 is not equal to 7. But 7 is less than 9. So which statement is correct? Is the data less than search value? No. The data at mid is greater than the search value. So which statement will execute? This statement will execute. Now you can see again the search function has been called. So what will happen? The left is left itself, but the right is mid minus 1. So this right is coming to mid minus 1 means to 1. So what is our new search space? So our new search space is 3 and 7. And what are the index? So you can see the index are 0 and 1. So this was what? This was one iteration. Now let us see, this is the second iteration. Again we will find the mid. Mid is equal to 0 plus 1 by 2. So what is it? It is nothing but 0 point something. So if we consider integer part, it is 0. Now this part is what? Mid, and this is left and this is right. So you can see our mid is equal to left. This will be repeated until 1. Left is less than right. So you can see left is 0, right is 1. So it is true. So now what will happen? We will check. Is mid equal to the data? No, our data is to be searched is 7, but mid value is 3. So we have to move right because the value is greater. So you can see this function will be called. So you can see left is updated to mid plus 1. So what is mid plus 1? This was mid plus 1 is 1. So now our search space is 7 only. So this was the second iteration, and the third iteration we have only one data left. So index is 0, left is pointing to here, right is pointing to here. You can see it is true for left equal to right also. So this is true. Now what will happen? Mid will equal to 0. Okay, we know only because 0 by 2 is 0. Now what will happen? The value will be matched. You can see ARR of mid is equal to search value. So what will happen? We will return the mid index. The index will be returned. Now you can see if the value is not present, what will happen then? So you can see the return, it will return -1. Okay, so -1 will be returned. So you can see total 3 iterations has been used. So what is the correct answer? The correct answer is 3. So let me just clear it out. So these were the options and the correct answer is 3. Okay. So I hope you could solve these types of questions. Okay, you have to just follow the algorithm. If you know the algorithm, then also it is good. If you don't know, just follow the code given in. Okay, now try to do this. So it is asking that how many objects and reference variable will be created here. Okay, means how many objects and how many reference variables. So if I don't give you options, can you do it? So try to do it without options. Okay, now I'm giving the options so it can be more helpful. All right, so I hope that you have done it. Now let us check. So it is very simple. What is when the object is created? So remember, when we use the new keyword, only then the object is created. What is the work of new? It allocates memory to an object. So let me write it here. It allocates memory to what? To an object. So you can see these are only two here. Okay, one is here and one is here. So these two are what? Objects has been created. So two objects. So you can see here we are having two objects and here we are having two objects. So now we have to find how many object reference. Now when the object reference is created, when we use the class name as the data type, so you can see producer A. So this A is what? This is an object reference because it is pointing to a object. This B is also object reference. Then you can see then C is also object reference. Now D also has been created and it is also a object reference. So we have four object reference. So option B is the correct answer. Now let me show you the diagrammatic representation how this will look. So we are having a object A. It is pointing to a object of producer class. Okay. Now you can see we are having a object B which is pointing to a object of the producer class. So this object is different. Okay. So the Java code will create a copy of all the instance variables in this also and in this object also. So this is also having PID and PName. This is also having PID and PName. So you can see these both variables are different. Okay. This PID can be accessed how? This can be accessed by A.PID. Why? Because this is, you can see, public in nature. Similarly, this can be accessed by B.PID and B.PName. Now let us see further. You can see object reference has been created for C. So we are having a object reference C, but it is pointing to nowhere. You can see we haven't allocated anything to it. Again, we are having a object reference D. So let me create a object reference D. So suppose this is object reference D, and you can see it is pointing to where A is pointing. Okay, so A object reference is pointing to this object. So to which object A is pointing, D is also going to point to that object. Okay, so this is the proper diagram. So now you can see this variable PID can be accessed through A.PID or also D.PID, and this PName can be accessed through A.PName or D.PName. So this is the basic concept of objects and object reference. So this should be clear for you. Now let us see the next question. Now this is a question and these are the options. You have to find the output here. So just pause the screen and try this out. Okay. Now let us try this. So let us quickly come to the main block. We know whenever we execute a Java code, the Java virtual machine calls the main function. So compilation starts from the first line of the main block. Okay, so let us quickly come to the main function and let us see what happens. So you can see first we are creating an object reference of picture and we are creating an object of the picture class. So this is our picture class and it is having a constructor. You can see this is the constructor. It is having one instance variable. Why we call it as instance variable? Because we can call it through the object. So when we are creating an object, this constructor will be called, this is a parameterized constructor and we are passing a value in the pixels variable. So you can see this 1000 will be stored where? So if I show you diagrammatically, so this OB is referencing to a object of which class? Of picture class. Now this picture class is having a copy of the instance variables, that is pixels. Now this pixel is storing 1000. Okay, if you try to access it, you can access it by ob.pixels. You can change that value also. You can use 2000. Okay, so this was the concept. Let us come back. So now this is, ignore this. The situation is like this. Now we are printing ob.pixels. So what will be printed? Can you tell me? So yeah, here the value 1000 will be printed because this is associated with the ob object. Now we are calling ob.display function. So you can see we have an instance function here. Since this function is non-static, okay, this is non-static, so we can call it through the object reference only. So what it is doing, it is storing pixels is equal to 2000. So you can see this is int pixels, it means it is a new variable. Okay, so now you can see this is also pixels and this is also pixels. So this is what instance variables, and if you want to refer this now, so you can refer this using this keyword, okay, this dot pixels. And if you will refer only pixels, if you will refer only pixels in this display function, it will refer to the new variable created here, okay, and it is storing what, it is storing 2000. So then it will print 2000. So this display function will print 2000. So what will be printed on the screen? So this will be printed on the screen 1000 and 2000. So option B is the correct answer. So you can see these object and object reference kind of things are a bit trickier. So if you keep practicing these types of questions, so you will get a very sharp idea that what are these. Now try this question. You can see this is a question using loops and these are the options. Okay, so I hope that you have found the correct answer. Now let us try it out. So you can see before jumping to the question, notice this that we are using jump statements here. Okay, so in Java, we have only two jump statements. First one is break and second jump statement is continue. Okay, one more jump statement we have, but we don't consider this as a jump statement. Its name is return. Okay, so we know that what is the use of return, to return from a function. Now let us concentrate on break and continue. Now what does break do? Suppose we have written this break inside a loop. So what this break will do, it will bring the control out of the for loop. Okay, so it will stop all the further executions. Now what continue will do, it will skip those iterations in which continue statement has been used, and the further executions will not stop. Okay, it will not bring the control out of the loop like break statement, but break statement brings the control out of the loop. So now let us run this code. So now you can see loop is storing 0. So what is the best way to run a for loop? We can use a dry run table. So I don't need a dry run table, but just to explain you, I am using this dry run table. So we should mention all the variables. So we are having a variable loop. Then what we have? We have a condition that this loop should be less than 10. Okay. Now I will write the, okay, it should be in same line. So I will write the output here. Okay, I will write the output here. Now let us execute it. Now you can see loop is storing 0. Now condition is checked. If 0 less than 10, yes. So what will happen? Control comes inside the loop. Now is loop equal to 3? No. So this statement will be ignored. Then loop greater than 5? No. Again what will happen? Value of loop will be printed with a single space. So what is the value of loop? 0 is printed with a single space. Now again controls goes up and this loop is incremented. So you can see 0 will become 1 now. Now it is checked. Is loop less than 10? So yes, 1 is less than 10. So control comes again inside and this condition is checked. So is loop equal to 3? No. So this condition was true, but these two statements were false. So again the value will be printed with a single space. So what will be printed? 1 will be printed. Now again control go up and this 1 will be incremented to what? This 1 will be incremented to 2. Since it is not equal to 3, neither it is greater than 5. Okay, condition is true, but internal if conditions are false. So again it will be printed with a single space. Now you can see this is 3 and condition is true, it is less than 10. So what will happen? You can see this continue statement will work. So what is the work of continue statement? It skips the remaining part of the loop for that iteration and moves to the next iteration. Listen again. It skips the remaining part of that iteration and moves to the next iteration. So what will happen? This part will be skipped for loop is equal to 3 and control will come here and loop will become 4. So nothing will be printed. So loop will become 4 and is this value less than 10? So yes, condition is true. Now control will come here. So is 4 equal to 3? No, this is false. So is 4 greater than 5? This is also false. So what will happen? We will print the value. So 1 to 4. Now I think you can get an idea. We are having here also 1 to 4. We are having here also 1 to 4. So let us see next iterations. Now again control will go up and loop will become 5. Now this condition is true that loop is less than 10. Yes, it is true. Now what will happen? Is loop equal to 3? So this is false, but loop greater than 5, then this is also false. So what will be printed? 5 will be printed with a single space. Now again control will go up. You can see this 5 has now become 6. So this is 6 and 6 is less than 10. Yes, it is true. So control will come inside. This statement is false, but this statement you can see loop is greater than 5. Yes, loop is 6 and 6 is greater than 5. Condition is true. So this break will work. Now remember, break, what does it do? It brings the control out of the for loop. So where for loop is ending, you can see this is the end of the for loop. So it will bring the control outside the for loop here. So if something was printed here, so it would print that, otherwise it will stop. So you can see after 6 the loop gets terminated. So what is the output? 0, 1, 2, 4, 5. So option D is the correct answer. Now let us see this code, and these are the options. You can see it is saying consider the code given below, and this code is written in driver.java. So we know that that if we have multiple classes in a single Java code, so what should be name of that Java file? The name of that Java file will be that class name in which our main block is present. You can see the main block is present in the driver class, so its name is driver.java. Now it is asking that how many dot class files will be generated for the above code. So when we compile this code, what happens? The dot class file gets generated. Okay, it stores the bytecode only. So if you will open the dot class file, you cannot understand any language. So you can see we are having two classes here. So a dot class file is generated for every classes present in Java. So since we are having two classes, so we will have two dot class files. So answer might be between A and B. Now what is the remaining question? Which class out of the two, that is controller or driver, will be loaded in the main memory first? So remember, whenever we execute the code, the Java virtual machine, okay, Java virtual machine, or we can call it as JVM, calls the main block. Okay, Java virtual machine calls the main block. So main block is present in which class? Driver class. So which class will get memory allocated first? So this class will be loaded in the main memory first. Okay, so what is the answer? The answer is driver. So option B is the correct answer. Now let us see the next question. Hope you are getting good practice. So this is the next question, and I think it is the last question of this video. So just pause the screen and try this out. We are performing some operations, okay, some arithmetic operations. That's it. So I hope you have solved this. So let us do it together. So before solving this, let me tell you some important things which you should need for solving this question. There is something known as precedence of operator. Okay, precedence of operators. So every operators in Java have a particular precedence. So we should execute them or solve them according to their precedence. So now you can see which operators we are having here. We are having plus plus operators. So these are what? These are postfix and prefix expressions we can have. Now what more we are having? We are having multiplication and division. So multiplication, division and modulus. So these three are having same precedence. Now you can see we are having a subtraction here. So addition and subtraction are having a same precedence. So suppose if these operators are in front of you, so you should solve them in this order. You can see the upper one are having higher precedence, means you should solve postfix prefix expression first, then you should solve multiplication, division and modulus, then you should solve addition, subtraction. Now the question comes to your mind is that what will happen if we have all the operators of same precedence? So the operators in the same line, you can see these operators are in the same line. So these are having one same precedence. Okay, these are having similar precedence. So which should I solve first if I having a multiplication and division only? So what I will do, I will solve them from left to right. Okay, so if I have operators which are having same precedence, I will solve them from left and right. Suppose we are having only plus and minus in our expression. So how can we solve them? Both are having same precedence, so you will solve them from left to right. But if we have different precedence, so you should solve them these first, then this, then this. So I have just shown the precedence of operators which are present here. Still there are lots of operators in Java. Okay, so you can check them out. So now let us solve them according to this precedence which I have written here. So there is a variable c, and what it is storing? It is storing a plus plus, then multiplied by b minus minus, divided by b minus a. So you can see this is the question. Now, what are the variables given? We are having a variable A, it is storing what? It is storing 22. We are having a variable B, it is storing what? It is storing 7, and C is storing nothing. So let me write C also. C is storing nothing. You can see C is empty now. So first, which operator should be solved? So you can see in the chart that we are having plus plus and minus minus. So first you can see A plus plus. So what is value of A? 22. So this is what? This is a postfix expression. If we have something like this plus plus A, it means what? It is a prefix expression. Means value should be incremented first, then used. But here we are having a postfix expression. Means old value should be used, then it should be incremented by 1. So what is the old value of A? You can see the old value of A is 22. So we are using 22. Now I am incrementing it. So this 22 is replaced with what? It is replaced with 23. Now we are having multiply. Now you can see we are having B minus minus. So this we should solve first. Okay, one more thing you can notice that I was having plus plus and minus minus both here. So how I have solved them? I have solved them from left to right. Now B minus minus. So it is again postfix expression. So first old value will be used. What is the old value? 7. Then it will be decremented. So minus minus is there. So it will decrement it to 6. Now divide is there. Then B. What is B? So now you can see when control comes to B, so now the value of B has been changed to what? 6. So 6 will be used here. Then we have minus, then A. So what is the new value of A? New value of A is 23. So we are having 23. All right. Now what are the operators which we should solve first? So we should solve this multiplication and this division. From these two, which should we solve for? Is it multiplication or is it division? So when we have operators of similar precedence, we should solve from left to right. So from left to right, 22 into 7. What is 22 into 7? It is nothing but 154. So divided by 6 minus 23. Now you can see these, we have two operators, divide and minus. So which is of higher precedence? Divide. So 154 by 6 is what? It is 25 point something. But since it is integer by integer, we have a formula in Java. Integer by integer is always an integer. So it is 25. Now 25 minus 23 is what? It is 2. So we have 2 where? So the answer is not yet complete. You can see this 2 is stored in the variable C. So C is storing 2. Now come to this part. You can see it is checking, is C less than 22? So yes, 2 is less than 22. Condition is true. So this else part will be ignored. What will be printed? First plus C. What is first? First is storing a string 1. So 1 plus C. What is C? C is 2. So when we use plus operator with a string and a number, so what does it do? It concatenates them. Okay, it concat them. So what is concatenating? It will just print them by sticking them together. So what will be the output? The output will be 1 and 2. So this will be the correct output. Okay, so if I show you the options, so you can see last option is the correct option. Okay, so this plus operator acts as a concatenation when used between a string and a numerical type of value. So that is it for this video, guys. Do comment the score which you have just now obtained, and I hope that you had a good practice of these types of questions. If you like the video, do like, comment and share. See you in the next video.